Baccano was a show that aired in the summer of 2007, animated by Brainsbase and directed by Takahiro Umuri. 2007 was a wonderful year for anime. We got Ghost Town, Nove Cantabile, Darker Than Black, and so much more. That was back when anime was at its prime, peering through the ideals and originality that brings a little something for everyone. Of course, we also got Baccano. This show is something of itself. Usually light novel adaptations are something to be weary about, but cutting to the chase, Baccano pulls it off and ends up being a freaking amazing anime, to say the least. Surprisingly, Baccano's story, or really I should say stories, is very straightforward. It just takes a little while to realize how simple it is because of its crazy non-linear storytelling and ridiculous onslaught of characters. Instead, it's definitely one of the series that I'm going to say I would definitely watch a second or even a third time in order to pick up all the connecting threads that run through the 13 episodes, not counting the OVAs, which are worth watching just to get a little bit more idea of their whole stories. But I gotta say, I'm a big fan of things not told in a nonsensical fashion though, and while the scenes change frequently enough to be incredibly confusing, it serves to move things along quickly and ensures that there's rarely a dull moment, and even if there is, it won't last long at all. It definitely won't appeal to everyone, but I think it's worth it for having a rewatch value of something like this a few times if needed. After all, it only means that it's definitely got your attention, right? Storytelling and pacing aside, the story itself I found very exciting and unique blend of genres. Prohibition era, or approximately so America, is not a common setting for an anime, nor an entire cast of American characters. Alchemists and mafia don't generally mix either, and it's a very elastic bunch of subjects to say the least. Dozens of perspectives spin several stories for each character, coincidentally are all connected. The only real downfall for this chaotic presentation is that it makes room for a lot of plot holes and unresolved subplots and sub-subplots. A lot of secondary characters' stories feel really unresolved or completely useless to the series' conclusion. I have mixed feelings about this mostly because of the lack of a solid conclusion contributes both to the sense of realism and the way the stories are packaged within the series, such as a newspaper company trying to recollect it. It is interesting, but it definitely means that will leave you as the viewer with a lot of questions. That said, I'm not going to vote to lengthen the series, or at least I wouldn't. 13 episodes may seem to be a little short on how much is going on within the anime, but it's actually a perfect length, at least for me. Any longer, it would have felt a little bit drawn out or forced. Ironic, I suppose, but this series breaks a lot of traditional boundaries, and so traditional expectations don't really apply a lot in its case. I believe one thing that does need to be addressed is the violence in Baccano. For something rather goofy, serious, and comedic all the time, the show is shockingly brutal. It doesn't shy away from the detailed gore, and the show is never gratuitous. However, all the blood and gore is used to actually advance the story, something that is quite rare to actually see in an anime. In the first episode alone, you see someone's head get blown off, a guy with his fingers sliced, a man unconscious from multiple punches, the aftermath of a torture, and a guy who has his whole arm stripped bare and nothing but his bone is showing. Stylistic and maybe over-exaggerated? Maybe, and probably yes, but it is vividly detailed. Baccano without gore is like ecchi without boobs. It's essential for the actual plot of things. Oh man, where do I start? The characters in Baccano more than anything else make a large part of the series, especially considering how closely they're all arranged to the overarching story. Because of their sheer number, and because of the varied genres that are tossed into the mix, there's an incredible range of characters, from outrageous outraged thieves to badass mafia underbosses, to collude immortal old men, to beautiful mute women, to traumatized little children. There is so much characters for everyone to take in and to find an interest in, to sympathize with, to cheer on, and to hate. Some of the characters are perfectly representation of their own archetypes, and others are far to the left. It's crazy, and most of them are just crazy in general. Unfortunately though, while almost all the characters are fun and amusing to watch, I would venture to say that there's just too many of them to take in. I could not count all the main characters on my 10 fingers. Although, of course, main is difficult to define in a series like this, but really having more than a dozen characters running around, each having their own story, gets really confusing, very fast, and especially when you factor in the arbitrary seeming jumps in time, space, and the story. Names and faces become so difficult to remember, especially in the tangles of the Mafia family, and their relationships to each other. It becomes hard to keep track on who knows who and when, since the group of characters meet at different points in the timeline. You see why I say this is probably a series you need to watch more than once to understand? It just really is. finally, once again, because of the sheer number of characters, very few of them seem to get real depth or develop throughout the entire series. Some of them overcome obstacles and face setbacks and challenges, but their personalities and core beliefs don't really change. I suppose it's probably an impossible wish for the series such as this, and it may be a distraction that would unbalance the even plane of all the characters stand on, but a well-developed character is one exception from a traditional series that I'm finding difficult to discard. But yes, since this is a rather unconventional series, it's an unreasonable expectation for me to have, and I hold nothing against it. Also, to note that you also could watch the OVAs, which could add 3 episodes of extra development to each character. At first glance, there's really nothing exceptional about Baccano's art style, but after a while, you get to actually see the more gore scenes, and you kind of notice that they treat the raw violence a little different than the usual. While people seem to lose limbs and body parts too easily to be realistic at times, the rendering of their injuries is incredibly significant and impressive. Seriously, a severed arm never looks so good. Brainspace is one of the smaller animation studios on the rise in the industry right now, but they did not fail in delivering near flawless animation. The colors are quite dark and matching up the 1930s setting. The movements are fluid, and if not for the rare jerky movements, the backgrounds are detailed and the show never had a decrease in quality. Occasionally, the backgrounds and characters' costumes for the entire series did demonstrate that wonderful depth of research that went into the series' creation. New York City in the early 1930s is wonderfully convincing, with the appropriate fashions adored on each character and so on. The interiors as well are pleasantly accurate. Inside of train cars, bars, and mansion homes are all fantastic. For an anime set in an unfamiliar time, it is really great to see that they did indeed take their time to look at the stuff to make this anime feel actually real. As for the sound, Baccano's opening is common on the list of people's favorite opening themes. It's jazzy, unskippable, introduces the main characters, and has you tapping your feet. Much like Cowboy Bebop's opening jazz theme, the jazz in Baccano is energetic and upbeat, perfect to set the mood for the entire series, not to mention the wonderful appropriate for its time period and setting. Upon the opening song, Baccano employs some really awesome psycholytical violin tracks that heighten suspense and drama, not to mention the thrashing pianos with tenseful-filled broken chords abroad. Ending theme is notably different from the rest of the music, being more traditionally sounding Japanese song, and its slow melody and comprehending mood works well, as you should definitely devote some time after each episode to sort out and process everything you just saw. With the voice acting, the dub is just wonderful. While you don't do anything wrong with the original Japanese format, the dub is one of the best dubs that you can find specifically for this sort of setting. You have amazing voice actors to back it up, like J. Michael Tatum as Isaac, Brina Palencia as Ennis, Maxie Whitehead as Chesla, and Brian Masley plays a fantastic Lad Russo. Like, seriously, he knows how to do it. Some of the side characters do seem a bit campy, but you really should watch this regardless in the dub format, because these voice actors really do stand out. Like, seriously, they stand out. Watch it now. With all my praise said and done, I will say Baccano isn't a flawless show. By any means, it is not. The narrative style, while unique and well done, isn't entirely original, as it's been done in movies and anime before, like Per Se, Garden of Sinners, even though it does a lot more bit of a job in my opinion. The animation could get way too dark at times, which can be a little gruesome for some people, but at the same time really kept me interested. And the characters aren't necessarily deep or anything in that sort of way, since they don't really technically progress in some sort of way. It's hard to explain. I just felt like there should have been more of them. We'll just say that. There should have been more of the characters. But either way, fun and loud is the only way I can describe it. Highly enjoyable and highly rewatchable, with colorful characters and surprisingly brutal violence and goofy humor, excellent fighting, and chilling horror all in one mix. This isn't perfection, but it is definitely one of the most entertaining shows I've watched in recent time, and is definitely considered in my all-time favorites. So of course, from the user, from the story, characters, animation, sound, and personal enjoyment, I'm gonna still give Baccano an 8.8 out of 10. It deserves it. It's very highly underrated, and I feel like people really should check it out and see it, and should get more praise than that's already been given. So Baccano is highly recommended. The blood and gore is used effectively, the characters are quirky and colorful, the fluid and consistent animation is fantastic, the show is well executed with an excellent dub, and overall it is as fun as you get. and it also has clever writing. I'm not gonna lie, Baccano presents itself as a very confusing and complex series, and at times it can be very frustrating to try to decipher what exactly is going on and remember who the hell everyone was. Despite this, it is somehow remains as a very entertaining show to watch, and there is a perfect balance between action-packed and just a cool-down scenes, and there is rarely any dull moments in between the crazy characters and crazy storylines, and yeah, if this video didn't convince you to watch it, I don't know what will. Anyways, this does wrap up my review of Baccano. If you guys did enjoy this, please hit that subscribe button and like this video, as well comment down below on your thoughts and opinions of this show. I'd love to hear what you guys have to think. As well, guys, I was supposed to do a Nagi review of Nagi no Sakara, but something happened. So yeah, my files got corrupted. Kinda bullshit. Anyways, if you guys do want me to do a Nagi review, please let me know. If not, try to tell me what you guys want me to watch and review. Anyways, my name is JcGreen. See you later. Peace.